It's a warm hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sim Racing Collective GT3 Series here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. And tonight marks the halfway point of what is gearing up to be an out-and-out brawl all the way to the season finale. And what a better venue to host the third round of Season 3 than Imola. A circuit famed in its history and its difficulty. And so our drivers will be hotly focused on consistency above all. And to talk you through all of tonight's action is myself, Zach Sweeney, and, well, 2.5 seasons strong all by myself. But tonight we've got JP Broadcast, an up-and-comer of Kelsey Gill, I should say. I mean, as I said, I'm very not used to saying your actual name, so, you know, it's cut me some slack here. But Kelsey Gill, welcome in, of course. Your first, I guess, step into the big boys.
Yeah, hello, good evening, everybody. It's great to be here. Yeah, first step into something completely different. I'm used to Formula One, of course, but GT3 cars, a track that I'm familiar with, and well, I'm just excited to get going.
Here he is. He's just happy to be here, ladies and gents. That's basically what it is. He's got a smile on his face. He's giddy, is what he is. Good old Sumo, as he's formerly known as an alias on the Formula One world of things. He's starting out and decided to take commentary a bit more seriously, jump himself in, and well, he's diving himself right into the deep end with these guys, with the TSRC PC here on ACC. He's really got himself cut out for some overwhelming amounts of action, I'm sure. We're jumping ourselves into a 15-minute qualifying, of which we've got 13 minutes of. And, well, Kelsey, I mean, you know this track as well as most, Imola. How important is qualifying going to be? How important is that track position?
Track position is going to be very key around here. I think the nature of the circuit itself, it's one that I think will be quite difficult to overtake on with these GT cars. I mean, they're smaller than Formula One cars, which is what I'm used to, but I think with the nature of the circuit itself compared to the previous venues of Watkins Glen and Suzuka might pose a challenge for all of the drivers, especially those who are trying to make their way up through the other categories along the field.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's a circuit that really does reward consistency, and it's one that actually, in all fairness, rewards that one-lap pace. It's a circuit that really does flow quite well if you hook it up. I mean, you really do have to go from corner to corner and try and carry that momentum all the way around the circuit.
Yeah, that's it. And there's a lot of tricky sort of corners. There's a lot of chicanes. You've got the Rettifilio, you've got Acqua Minerale, you've got I'm trying to remember them all, your Villeneuve chicane and everything, but there's a lot of places like that, and I think we'll see some great side-by-side racing, especially once we get into the thick of it.
For sure. I mean, again, it's a circuit that it's doable to overtake, but it is difficult. I mean, you've got that long run from the final corner all the way through the, well, not really a straight, but it's flat out, all the way through in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Very long run. I mean, in the world of Formula One, more familiar to you, of course, you know, you look on the F1 games, and the slipstream and DRS that you can get from that run all the way from the last corner to the Villeneuve chicane at turn 2 is very strong. And the slipstream, of course, no DRS or no ERS in these compared to Formula One, very basic GT cars, you can still pick up quite a fair bit of slipstream, which surely is going to open up some pretty good avenues into overtaking in towards turn 2.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're going to see a lot of drivers really hurtling down towards that first corner into I can't remember the name of the chicane. I've probably said it before. I'm really I need to get the track map up and really have a look, but yeah, I think it's going to be interesting.
I'll give you a clue. It begins with a T. I've got it wrong. It's not the Villeneuve chicane. It's the other one.
Tamburello.
There we go. It's the Tamburello chicane. Of course, then after that, you go into the Villeneuve chicane that we see Sir Smokey is running his way through now in towards. My British self loves to call it Tosser, but it's not. It's Tosa. And then you run your way up towards the Piratella. We're right on board, actually, with Sir Smokey all the way around this lap, because as it stands, he sets the pole time of 1:42.237 through the left end of the Piratella. And then, as Kelsey formerly mentioned, the Aquamilarali just after that to see a very tricky corner, in all fairness, actually, because you're turning and you're braking at the same time, and that's putting a lot of lateral load onto that car.
Yes, certainly so. And it's more or less a double right-hander as you're coming down the hill and then sort of sweeping straight back up. Then you're getting on that curb as well, so it makes the exit of the corner tricky. And then you're running into, of course, the final chicane after that, which is the Variante Alta, which I almost forgot the name of. But that's another tricky one as well, but a great one if you get it right.
Definitely downhill braking then in towards the final complex. Double left-hander of Ravazza and Sir Smokey keeping it fairly nice and tidy. You've just got to go through one, then try and straight up at the steering wheel, then straight back into the other before you get on the power on a flat-out run all the way to the line. Try and minimise the run, of course, change to not go to the chicane to the left and just a dash to the line. Is it an improvement on his lap time for Sir Smokey? It is indeed, to a further 1:42 dead, an extra 2/10 improvement. We cut back to Dominic Ligner, a driver who in the Fast Forward Racing Audi R8 is looking to improve upon his woes of a fairly shaky start to the season, currently half a second off the pole time set. Samuel Cholmondeley goes just half a second off the pole time, and now Dominic Ligner across the line. What can he do? And well, it's pole. That is definitely one way to make a statement.
Yeah, certainly. That'll be a big confidence booster coming into this round. He's not had the best start to this championship, but he'll definitely be looking to move up forward from that and hopefully stay on the top.
Yeah, I mean, there's still just over half of the qualifying session left to go, but to topple Sir Smokey to make that statement as, well, his teammate completely danced off the line, probably to get out of the way of Dominic Ligner, I believe, and towards Tosa and trying to keep it nice and tidy. The gap at the front is only just, well, about a tenth and a quarter, 127 thousandths of a second. We cut back to Scott Vincent for Turner Motorsport and trying to move his way. He, at the moment, is in the silver class. Of course, we do have to make a warm welcome, actually, to the Turner Motorsport Scott Vincent, because, well, he's worked his way back into TSRC. Somehow Andrew Pike has allowed him back onto the grid, but very warm welcome to him. He's sort of chopping and changing on and off when it comes to his sim racing career, but we've got him back, and at the moment, you know, considering he's got a bit of dust to rub off, he's fourth as it stands in the silvers, which, you know, it's not too bad.
No, certainly not, and it can be quite what's the word I'm trying to look for? It can be quite acclimatizing. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but bopping in and out of racing essentially can be quite difficult, and I've done so myself. But yeah, it's always good to see somebody who's not always racing on the circuit.
For sure. I mean, you just got to settle yourself back into things, have a slow start, and, you know, try and learn how to drive again. Essentially, is what Scott Vincent is trying to do, is to try and resettle himself back into not only the car and track itself, but also the racing environment, the atmosphere that you get in a competitive nature.
Yeah, that's it. And trying to sort of stay, you know, quick and consistent and keep the spirits up as well, especially. I know a little bit about Scott Vincent, and he'll be hoping to not act on any of his aliases at the moment, but we won't mention that to stay off the commentators' curves for now. But be rooting for him as we go through the session.
No such thing as the commentator's curse. Only bad driving is something I've learned from good old Lewis McGlade. He's taught me that the commentator's curse isn't real. It's more so the commentator's coincidence than anything. It's just a case of, oh, you've brought up this driver, and no, he's just driven badly and ended himself up in the wall. But again, we'll have to see what Scott Vincent can do on debut. The one-lap shootout in qualifying is very different to the 40-minute dash to the checkered flag when it comes to the race. Following on with Martin Blankensteiner, the Danish driver who joined us last season for season number 2, really impressed across the season. Unfortunately fell short of the championship with a couple of miscomings in the final 2 rounds of season 2, but really hitting the ground running when it comes to the big boys in the pros and starting himself as high as possible, currently P6. But when you look at the top 10, only 1.2 seconds covering it at a very difficult circuit, and in these GTs, 141 lap time, that's towards the slightly above average side of things. It's considerably, actually quite close, with only a fractions of a second between each driver.
Yeah, every fraction, every tenth, every hundredth of a second counts, especially in qualifying. And as we previously said, a circuit like this, Imola, where it's going to be a bit difficult to overtake, is really gonna set the precedent for what is to come in the race.
Yeah, I mean, it's tight, it's twisty, the lack of runoff is very, very daunting. I mean, it's a circuit that goes all the way back to the classics in the Formula 1 days, back when safety was more of an afterthought than anything. And, well, it's continued on today, of course, with a couple of slight modifications. Tamburello has been turned into a chicane, and etc, etc. The usual, what some people would quote as boring FIA grade 1 safety standards, but the very important ones. The safety standards, however, do not take anything away from its difficulty and the very abundant amount of grass and gravel traps that surround the circuit itself. It's one that there's very, very little margin for error, which, when it comes to modern day circuits of grade 1 class, margin for error is something that's actually not too, or a lack of a margin for error is something that's not too common nowadays. You often have an abundance of runoff. So Imola is going to be very, very difficult and very, very consistency focused.
Yeah, it really is. There's not a lot of sort of tarmac runoff along this track. You're meeting the grass, you're meeting the gravel. It's not like a lot of other circuits. A circuit like Paul Ricard, where you can really run straight off the track and try and sort of rejoin in a safe manner without losing a lot of time, is something possible. And even in like Suzuka, for example, that turn 1 has got a lot of runoff that's tarmac rather than that big gravel trap. So you can really try and make those mistakes back, essentially. But a track like this, there's just grass, there's gravel everywhere, so any mistakes are really going to be paid for.
For sure. And yeah, these GTs are, they're not exactly the high downforce pinnacles of engineering that some people might be more familiar with when it comes to single seaters, though very, very common when it comes to sim racing. They're prone to understeer, and while they have got the ABS, the anti-lock brake system, the TC, the traction control that sort of limits the amount that they can actually the amount of power that goes to the rear wheels on corner exit, it's still very, very difficult to maintain a very fine balance of those assists, and obviously you want to run a good mix of ABS. You don't want it too high, you don't want it too low. Same with traction control, and when you get to that balance, it's a very, very small operating window that if you step outside of those margins, you are going to find yourself in a little bit of trouble. 3 minutes left of qualifying. Then we're following on with Luca Raya, the Italian, who, as it stands, is P3 in the qualifying session for the Silvers, as I like to call them, the Pro-Ams. But looking at the 1-2-1 there, Scott Vincent, he's put it on pole provisionally. Andrew Pike's got his own opinions of him, but so far he's in my good books.
Yeah, certainly making a statement there in the Pro-Ams and doing really well at the moment. But yeah, making quite the show in putting it on pole position for that part of the championship. We're just watching a few other drivers making their way around. We've got the Bentley of Kingston Lee coming round through down towards the run on Ravazza on his lap. Let's see what he can do in the Triple 8 car.
Yeah, of course. The Bentley, it's, well, not necessarily everyone's choice. It's the car that I used when I was in ACC. I really do like the Bentley. Coupled that and the Lexus, I did like myself a bit of that. But maybe that's the Bentley is the British side of me. The Lexus is just I like a loud car. Anyway, the Kingston Lee is the 888 car, and across the line, currently P3 in the AMs. Very split is the AMs. Got pretty much the entirety of the silver field separating them. And across the line was an improvement up to a 140 or down to a 144.302 for Joe Kingston Lee. Not enough to improve his position as it stands. But into the closing stages of qualifying, 1 minute 40 on the timing sheets, and well, it's going to be actually quite close to see if Kingston Lee gets another run. It will definitely be these guys' final run on the lap coming. Nico Veldman only 6 tenths off pole as Dominic Aligna improves to a 141.750. He's now up to P3 as the Flying Dutchman, and well, he's actually calling it a day there. He could have gone for another lap, but decided that P3 was the best he's going to get.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's good to just, know your limits and think, save yourself for the race. Try not to push all that too hard. I mean, sometimes it can be worth it to just try and get those few extra tenths in a qualifying session, but I think he's just ready for the race. He knows where he's going to go, and he's going to try and make up those places at this, tricky circuit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, P3 starting right behind his teammate of Dominic Aligna, both for Fast Forward Racing. So both in the Audi and both looking to make some advances. Maybe Dominic Aligna can give Veldman the slipstream all the way to the Tamburello chicane, and so Smokey might get caught napping just a little bit. Here's Conchabo at the moment, up now to pole position for the silver class, ahead now of Scott Vincent. However, a bit of a spin there for Conchabo sees him abandon his final run in qualifying. Final stages now of qualifying as we tick down into the final seconds. Oscar Storisto, as it stands, is currently P14 overall and right towards the back end of the pro field. The Finnish trying to finish on a high and maybe get himself up a couple more places, and he only needs a couple of tenths to do so, but well, the pressure is very much on when you leave it this late, and well, as rain falls onto the circuit in a very, very anticlimactic end, it might not actually go the way of the Flying Finn, as well, that is definitely going to be helping his case. It might well be last in the pro field for him.
Yeah, he won't be happy with the rain coming in right at the end of the lap, and he's also got this Italian flagged car right ahead of him. The Italians making a statement out on track with the liveries as they come together along the main straight there after the qualifying session has ended. But yeah, Sarita's going to have some work to do. He's been he's put on quite a bit of a show in the pros for what I've seen from the previous rounds, and it'll be interesting to see how he makes it through the field.
Yeah, I mean, he's only now just under 7 tenths off. I mean, you have to think, if there wasn't any rain towards the end portion of that lap, if he didn't get caught behind the Italian flagged BMW, as you said, the Nord-Est Racing, I mean, what could he have done? It could have been at least a couple of tenths improvement. It might have got him ahead of Maurice Stryker there in 6th place, but waiting for the last couple of people to cross the line. Welcome in, of course, everyone in the YouTube chat. Thank you to Phil Robin, Ash, JP Broadcasting as well. Big old James Parfitt in the YouTube chat watching along before he takes to the Radical Racing Series just after this. But yeah, welcome in. Of course, it's a pleasure to have you. Myself, Zach Sweeney, Kelsey Gill alongside me in the commentary booth. You're joining us for the Sim Racing Collective PC GT3 Series for season number 3. And well, we're at round number 3 here at the Autodromo Enzo. Dino Ferrari, better known as Imola, in Italy, close, about 40 kilometers away from the province of San Marino. And well, with qualifying drawing to a close, we're going to take a quick look as to how things rack up for round number 3 of season 3. The qualifying session here at Imola saw Dominic Aligna, the German, take pole position, and once again himself and Sir Smokey shared the front row. Look back to Suzuka for, well, what happened the last time these two shared 1 and 2. 2 purple sectors for the German, sees him take pole position. Nico Veldman 3, Samuel Chimondley rounds off the second row there in 4th. Then comes Jack Southfield, rounds off the top 5 with Maurice Stryker, Oscar Soristo, Gim Hanning, Conchabo and Eric Larson, your top 10. Of course, Conchabo taking the pole for the silver class. Martin Blankenstein at P11, Elias Troy a pole for the AM category with Václav Lodger there in 13th. Chef will join him on the 7th row with Scott Vincent, a very impressive P3 back on debut, well, return from sabbatical debut there in the 121 BMW. Then comes Luca Rias, Chris Davis, Ampiri, Rubini, Peters, Quantrell, Steenberg and Wright, Kingston Lee, the top 24 and final car on our grid there in the AAA. We are just moments away then from getting underway for 40 minutes of racing action. And, well, Kelsey, I've got to say, the way that grid is stacked up, I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this one is going to be quite interesting, with the track making it even more so, and Ligner and Smoggy on the front row once again. It's going to be quite the spectacle to see as they hurtle down towards turn one, and Ligner's going to have some he's going to have some points to prove this evening. He's got to really come back from those two poor rounds, and well, these drivers in the pros are all incredible, and I'm sure Ligner can do it. I've seen him make some incredible moves in the racing that I have seen here on this GT3 Championship, and I am incredibly impressed. But I think everybody around there has the capacity to make some incredible racing out there, especially on a track like this. And we'll be keeping a close eye on Vincent there in the silvers. I'll be interested to see how his progress is made, of course, and he'll be wanting to really make a good comeback.
Yeah, speaking of his aliases, Andrew Pike is very much expecting him to become Spincent. I don't even know how you meant to pronounce that. There's a nickname in there somewhere, but fingers crossed that he won't do that. Speaking of spinning, though, we saw rain towards the latter stages of qualifying. We're seeing, forecasted conditions for at least the 30 minutes of this race. We'll see how that progresses throughout this session, but, well, the overcast and obviously the rain coming off qualifying, surely he's going to be playing in the minds of these drivers. They've got to be thinking, well, what's going on? I mean, there's a bit of rain coming. It could come. We don't actually know if it's coming. It's that afterthought surely's got to be looming as to some doubts.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be quite the race to see, and yeah, having these conditions perhaps changeable as well is going to make things incredibly interesting. It will come down then to the driver's skill and ability on the track. The rain is always known as the great equalizer, I suppose, if you're going in Formula One terms. But it really does throw a spanner in the works as a driver. You've really got to be smooth. You've really got to be consistent. If it does turn up on this circuit today as their cars ghosting through one another, I thought that was going to be quite a magnificent crash, but thankfully ghosting on. But yes, it's going to be one to watch.
Really has, and I really cannot wait at all. As we say, 40 minutes of racing action ahead of us. We're at the moment on the formation lap, and, well, it doesn't matter what background of racing you come from, you definitely have been familiar with formation lap, warm-up laps, parade laps, whatever you want to call them. How important is this going to be? I mean, from a fundamental level of tyres, brakes, psyching yourself up, how important and how do you use a formation lap to best advantage your chances going into the race?
Well, the formation lap is incredibly important. It's that build-up to the race itself. You've got to really, you've got to sort of warm up the tyres, I guess, get the car in the best condition in order for you to really be taking advantage of everything that you've got behind the wheel once you get wheel to wheel with all of the other drivers. And yeah, it psychs you up as well. Before I took onto commentary, I was a driver myself. It's that build-up. You slowly build up the intensity on a formation lap, and you can feel it there. You can almost cut it with a knife. It's almost tangible in the way that it presents itself on that formation lap. But you've just got to try and calm those nerves and be ready for the start, because that's when the drama can happen, is on the starting lap of a race, and that's when you've really got to just take control of what you're doing and keep an awareness about you, so you don't make any silly mistakes or any collisions on the first lap of a race, essentially. And yeah, it's also a good chance for you to really kind of get a grip for the track, especially. I mean, a warm-up lap's a bit better for that, but just take the lines and sort of get a feel for where you want to be on the circuit, and then try and work on that consistency lap after lap after lap. And a formation lap, absolutely fine.
Sure. And well, just quick, two words, their name. Who's winning?
Smoggy.
Oh, okay. Well, that was one word, but to each their own. I mean, well, Kelsey Gill, he's good at commentary, not so good at maths, potentially. I mean, I'm going to continue talking, so he doesn't have any opportunity to come back at that one. In towards Ravazza then to line themselves up 2 by 2, Noah's Ark style. Dominic, Aligna, so Smokey share the front row of the field. 40 minutes on the clock then. Round number 3 of the Sim Racing Collective PC GT3 Series here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. We're here in Imola. We're about to get ourselves underway. The drivers are psyched up. Their tyres are warm. Their brakes are warm. The thought of rain looms over everyone's mind. But Aligna, Smokey, Veldman, Chimondley, your top 4 as they bow their way through and towards the Tamburello chicane. Still some warm-up in the background there from one of the Mercedes, waiting as long as possible to put his foot to the floor and send us underway, waiting for the green lights to show, and then we'll signal ourselves off for 40 minutes of racing action. Aligna, Smokey on that chase down towards turn number 2. We're waiting to get ourselves ready. So Aligna leaving it very, very late, but finally, potentially, we might see ourselves underway at some point of this back straight, but he's leaving it as late as possible, and I'm trying to ramble on as long as I possibly can. 40 minutes of racing action, though, finally is underway as Aligna puts his foot to the floor and sends us underway for round number 3 of the TSRC, and he's alongside already of Sir Smokey. A drive-through in the back there for Conchabo sends an early shadow on his race in towards the Tamburello chicane for the first time. Dominic Aligna leads from Sir Smokey. Veldman, who had a bit of a look to the inside, and followed closely by Chimondley, who's there trying to move up some places. Got himself ahead of Nico Veldman. Jack Southfield just in behind there as well. Is that maybe some rain I see on the circuit? I did see a couple of drops potentially as Guillaume Hamling trying to move his way up the field as well through the Tamburello chicane for the first time into towards Villeneuve and now up towards Tosa. So far so good, and quite a clean start to be fair.
Yeah, very clean start. A bit of shuffling through. We're watching Blankensteiner just a little bit further back in the background, trying to make his way up toward the inside as they head up towards the Piratelli, side by side with the other Mercedes as well. Nowhere for that neon car to really go. And oh, there's been an incident. I think the Honda had a bit of a spin, and that's really affected Blankensteiner as he's made his way through that fast left-hander.
Indeed, so already really kicking off as they won their way through. Aquaminerali, Martin Blankenstein hanging on to P9 just. He's got Eric Larson just in behind, newly promoted from the Silvers up in towards the pros, and that very fluorescent Mercedes, and well, everyone running their way single file in towards Variante Alta. Luca Raya on the back of Scott Vincent trying to get themselves up a place on the silver class. Of course, it will turn into the podium after Conchabo's drive-through filters its way through, nearly 3 wide just in front of him. Scott Vincent trying to get into the mixes. Conchabo and Davis run side by side. There goes the Turner Motorsport BMW to the inside of Ravazza, I should say, and now side by side in towards the final corner. Scott Vincent up a place and now ahead of Conchabo, who pulls themselves into the pit lane for, of course, their drive-through. So Scott Vincent making up some places in the early stages and onto the podium, but well, lap 1, and well, no one really wanted to settle in. They kicked it off guns a-blazing.
Yeah, they certainly did. It's close racing between some of these guys. Watch Peters now come down, looking to the inside of the Tamburello. That Italian car going incredibly deep, making his way through is the Mercedes. No, car number 27. And yeah, all the drivers, a little bit tentative from some of them, but incredibly feisty. Very
much so, and well, close to, but not quite over the limit. Here's Giuseppe Zampieri, and I'll once again apologise for butchering his name. I'll get it right at some point in this season. In towards Tosa, it's looking a bit squirrely. As oh my word, we almost saw Davide Massi into the back of the McLaren of Bardari as they once again run their way up the hill of this ever undulating circuit. Getting squeezed to the inside though is the Porsche machine of James Wright, and oh my word, a bit of a look in towards the Piratello. Not quite materialising, but well, it really is kicking off in the midfield. Again, these small little groups are starting to materialise, and there's a dive in towards Aquaminerali. It's people, I don't know, is it a, I mean, surely this has got to be hurting them more than helping them at this stage of the race.
Yeah, it really is. It takes a lot of bravery to get up the inside of somebody into these faster corners as well, especially that sequence. Piratello then down for Aquaminerali. It's such a it's a tight, it's a fast, and it's a dangerous place to make it overtakes. But if you can really make it work, it is something that's great. And to go back onto your point of getting the name right of the car we were just watching, I believe it's, well, the second name at least, is Zampieri? Is that right?
Oh, maybe, Zampieri. Yeah, no, honestly, we're British, mate. We don't get pronunciations right. That's something you'll learn when it comes to commentaries. You get some very difficult names, as Guillaume Hamling has a bit of a look to the outside of Jack Southfield, is really using that Porsche's legs to his best advantage, using, of course, the mid-engine rear-wheel drive to better his acceleration off the corner. And once again, having a bit of a look is Guillaume Hamling in towards the Villeneuve chicane through the left, then the right. Very fast-paced chicane, but you really have to slow the car down as much as possible. It's a very close fight, actually, in all fairness, for second place in this race. They're all queuing up behind Sir Smoggy, but Dominic Ligner, as it stands, clearing off to at least the extent of a couple of car lengths in the early stages of this race.
Yeah, he's just been able to stretch his legs. He got a nice clean start off the line, and you saw him just get that gap out as they were making their first way through the couple corners, and that's I think Chef off the track. We've got another car off the circuit as well coming along, just making their way back on safely, letting all the other drivers past. But big mistakes from these guys, that's going to cost them in their races.
And that's Scott Vincent. Oh my goodness me. Well, Scott Vincent for Turner Motorsport got turned around there through Tosa. We're going to take another look as to how things happened, catching the back end of it. Oh no! Oh, Scott, that is mightily dodgy in the bluntest way possible. And well, it only took 5 minutes into this race for Scott Vincent to turn back to his own ways, and Andrew Pike is going to be having an absolute field day with that one. Back to the front, and Jack Southfield trying to hammer on some pressure on Nico Veldman, and doing his absolute best. Of course, the slipstream is going to aid him down the pit, not so straight, and well, then the slipstream, has he really got enough in that Porsche? Andrew Pike looking his way. Yeah, Vincent as well, he's also known as Andrew Pike. Matt Agton, I'm sure, having an absolute... Well, they're going to be loving this. Their popcorn sat on their lap. They're going to be staring at Scott Vincent for the entire stream. I'm sure nothing materialising, though, for Southfield to move his way up inside the top 5. But all it takes is the smallest of mistakes to cause the biggest of consequences for any of these drivers.
Yeah, it really does. And we go back to our point on the lack of runoff here. You know, again, you're onto grass, and in some stages as well, the wall is very close as well. So damage or can creep in, or any of those mistakes are really going to be paid for. Chaz Meister, yes, that does have some help today, and he's got a very capable voice, I suppose. I was going to say pair of hands, but it doesn't really fit.
You've got to hold the microphone, haven't you? Actually, no, you've got a stand, I assume, haven't you?
I do, yes. I do have a stand, so it's good stuff.
I have to hold mine. I've been holding mine since August. I had a nice little stand. I managed to get myself a nice little microphone. Lewis McGlade gave it to me when we went down up to Bolton. Put it into my desk. You know, made it all snazzy, and well, I drilled it a little bit too far to the outer edges, and obviously the moments and stuff snapped my desk. So since August, I've had to be holding it, and well, it's been suboptimal to say the least. But yeah, well, we've got Kelsey Gill alongside me in the commentary booth, and well, they're a very capable pair of hands, voice, whatever you want to call it, and making their way into commentary for, well, not as a debut into commentary, but definitely a debut here on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. More familiar in terms of Formula One, and well, just finally decided to take the step up, and well, we thought nothing better than the TSRC. And hopefully it's been a nice warm welcome into the run with the big boys. As well, it's really kicking off here and towards the Tamburello chicane. Oscar Soristo having a bit of a look, trying to get involved in that fight for 6th.
Yeah, Soristo really trying to make some moves up in this fight amongst the pros, and they're going to go and have a look. Is he round the outside as they go into the Villeneuve chicane? Not quite available for the car number 97, but he's going to continue to sit back and a little bit wide from the Lamborghini in front of him. That's going to invite him to the outside as they go through Tosa. The trees block our view, but side by side again as they continue now. They run up towards Piratella, and I think that's Soristo pulling ahead just about, and he's going to try and close the door, but that Lamborghini's going to sit in there and stay with him, but has to back off, and that's a very decent pass from Soristo. He gets himself up into P8 now, and is it P8? No, P7. It's a bit delayed, but yes, a great move.
You'll get used to that with ACC. It refreshes every sector as opposed to live every couple of seconds. Here comes the counter-attack, though, from Guillaume Hamling in towards the Variante Alto. Oscar Soristo has it covered off and up into P7 now, but yeah, the awkwardness of Assetto Corsa Competizione when it comes to spectating is that it doesn't refresh every couple of seconds like you see on other sims. It's every sector, so you sort of see drivers get closer together, then when they get to the next bit, they're a little bit further apart and blah, 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 and you trip up sometimes, but again, it's a learning curve as we approach 30 minutes left to go in this 40-minute race, and Oscar Soristo trying to make some progress forward. The Finn, I mean, well, we saw him have a pretty lackluster end to qualifying, but I mean, he's trying to make up for it now, and you've really got to, I guess, in a sense, I mean, I'm sure you'll agree with me from your driving days, Kelsey, is the sense that you have to take each overtake from one to another. You have to use each one as a stepping stone to the next. Yeah,
you really do, and it's all about patience as well. You've got to got to think, right, I've got this car ahead of me, I've got to get past him, and then I can focus on the car ahead of that car, and then the car ahead of that car, and so on and so on and so on. It's all about patience. And again, every driver is different as well. You've really got to study the driver. You've really got to find places to get past, and you've really just got to try and capitalize. And putting pressure on drivers is incredibly important as well. You've got to let drivers know that you're there. Most of my time, I wasn't the fastest of drivers, as it were, but when it came to defense, I was known as the brick wall, just to, you know, toot my own horn a little bit, I suppose. But I'm very well versed in defending positions, but attacking positions is just as important as well.
It is. It's, well, there's many different characteristics that craft the perfect driver, and well, there's a million different things that really go into it. Sort of think of it like a cake, and you've got your recipe and consistency, attacking, defending. You've all got your own little portions of it, and they all come together to make what's hopefully a very, very divine cake, I'm sure. But yeah, when it comes to different attributes and things like that, consistency, defending, attacking are definitely all going to be up there. Of course, the pace as well, but again, you don't really want to put too many eggs in one basket. You don't want to be quick and not consistent. You want to be good at attacking but not good at defending. It's one of those things. It very much is a balancing act, and those that can really balance as close as possible, get each of the different attributes as high and even as possible, are really going to be the ones that separate the good from the great.
Yeah, they really are. You've really just got to be in tune with everything you're doing on track, you know, whether that's attacking, defending, or even just staying as consistent as possible. As Sweeter getting very close to the back of that Porsche in towards the first couple of corners. And actually, Sweeter running the number that I usually run when I play Formula One, so naturally a driver that I'm accustomed to, I suppose, or drawn to on here. Discussing the Alpine launch in the chat between Ash and Chasma, so apparently they leaked the livery. I've not actually seen it yet, or I might have seen it if they have leaked it, but wow, big blunder from Alpine today.
It's the French. I'm joking. I don't want to get roasted in the YouTube chat from French colleagues, but yeah, suboptimal as always. Come back to it for Alpine, but so far so good in terms of F1 liveries. To be fair, I mean, we've not been particularly disappointed, but honestly, when it comes to sim racing liveries, you know, it's sort of, you know, branching away into sim racing when it comes to liveries, teams do really, really well. Again, I'm not too sure as to your experience with sort of the top end of esports racing, but when you get the likes of Team Redline and Apex Racing Team and BS plus Turner Competition, you know, you've got some really, really good liveries that, you know, people have designed at home on Assetto Corsa or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you've got some very talented people out there who take a lot of effort to design those liveries. As side by side towards Acqua Minerali, that's brave from the pole of Felix Chef, as outside all the way through Acqua Minerali. That's, well, definitely one way to get past, even if it's not for position in your class.
Yeah, that was incredibly brave, and making your way through drivers of another class as well. That is something that is a big factor in this. Is there's a bit of a battle going on just behind them as well. But that's Suristo. He's making a move past, or being attacked by the Porsche, I should say. No, attacking the Porsche. It's this Assetto Corsa thing really tripping me up there. But Suristo passed after the first couple of corners, and that was we caught onto it late, but it looked like a great move.
Really did. I mean, it didn't seem too hard fought from Jack Southfield, more so interested in sitting behind the Finnish driver and maybe using him as sort of you know, hooking onto the back of him, becoming his caravan and being towed all the way onto the back of the likes of Nico Velman and Maurice Stryker just in front, very close as well for the fight for second. And yeah, I mean, it's gearing up to be a fairly decent race, at least at the front of the field, at least at that fight for second, actually, because, well, Dominic Lincoln having a fairly quiet race. Here comes Guillaume Hamling, actually a dive to the inside of Acqua Minerali, held off by the Porsche of Jack Southfield, able to stay in front at least for now. But Guillaume Hamling having a bit of a look there, and Acqua Minerali, surely there's better places to at least have a look into having an overtake.
Yeah, there certainly is, and I mean, like we've mentioned before, it's a risky part of the circuit. It's so fast, and it's such a tricky corner as well. Well, couple of corners, I should say, that you know, you really just got to weigh it up. But there's nothing wrong with having a look as a driver. Again, it goes back to applying the pressure onto your fellow drivers. As Stryker will be wanting to put on some pressure on that fluorescent pink car just ahead of him, and yeah, just, you know, letting them know that you're there and making sure that, you know, you're trying to chip away at them and try and find that place where you can eventually get past, and then just focus on the next car.
I mean, it's a case of sort of making them look backwards as opposed to forwards. As soon as they look backwards, you're in their heads. And once you're in their heads, you've got a very substantial foothold over your opponent. You start to put some pressure on. And, well, when it comes to pressure, there's drivers that thrive under it. There's drivers that crack under it. And as a driver who's attacking, you have to sort of know your opponent. For these guys, they've been battling for at least this season, maybe the last two if they've got more seasoned veterans. They know their opponent. They know what works, what doesn't work. And well, you've just got to sort of try an experiment, see what does and doesn't work, but definitely one that is reliable is sitting in the mirror, making them nervous, making them, as they're driving, quick look up the mirror. Where is he? Where am I looking? Right, left. Panicking as you go into the braking zone, because that is what cracks the defenses. That is what causes a lack of composure. And as soon as you've got a lack of composure, you've got a lack of doubt, lack of confidence, and that leads to more and more mistakes that the attacking driver can then subsequently capitalize on and then feed off the vulnerability of a driver. But so far, so good for Samuel Chimondley in the Audi R8, able to hold off the striking maneuver from Maurice Stryker and the very lovely Honda NSX, I have to say. I do like the colour scheme on that Honda. I don't know. I mean, again, coming back to liveries, I've sort of been simping over it all season long, but I do like that Honda. Maybe I just like Japanese cars. I don't know. Either way, he's trying, but not quite able to get himself onto the podium, at least for now.
Yeah, it certainly looks fierce, that livery, and I've never been averse to a livery design. I love designing liveries. It's one of my favourite things, and I just wish in the Formula 1 games that the livery designs were a little bit more diverse and you had a little bit more control of what you can do. But some of the liveries out here are looking great. You've got incredibly simplistic yet standout cars, like the car of Chimondley. I was saying it in my head right, and then I got it wrong when I said it. But I'll get there eventually. But then you've got the livery of Stryker, who is trying to make a move as they go towards Tosa. Not quite close enough on this occasion. But yeah, I do like I like myself a good livery design, and yeah, some of these ones are incredibly striking.
Yeah, see what you did there. Funny, lovely. But yeah, anyway, we'll digress from that, because, well, when you've got a name like Stryker, there's definitely a lot of things you can do from that. You definitely can tell what position he plays if he plays football. Let's put it that way. But running their way through at Minerali, and 2.5 tenths back is the gap between Chimondley and Maurice Stryker as we approach the halfway mark. Of course, we have to take into account the mandatory pit stop that these drivers have to take. The pit window is open for the next 11 minutes, just under 11 minutes, and you can tell who and who hasn't taken their pit stop by the little orange one next to the number plate of the drivers, running their way all the way down to Guillaume Hamling and now Scott Vincent, who works their way into the pit lane. Guillaume Hamling taking a fairly early pit stop in this race, but of course, I mean, Kelsey, it's not necessarily... of course, they have to mandatory top up on fuel and go into the pit lane, but taking tyres is optional. And, changing tyres can save you those crucial couple of seconds that could get you the track position, but also could actually see you slightly slower than those around you. I mean, the strategical dynamic of even a 40-minute race is of vital importance to these guys.
Yeah, it really is, and pit stops is where a race can be won or lost, really. It's just, it's a case of trying to do the right thing, taking tyres, not taking tyres, and it's just a whole, it's a whole other element of a race per se. You can drive consistently, you can drive fast, you can make overtakes, but if you make one simple mistake at a pit stop, that can lose you so much time and can really put you on a bit of a back foot going into the next part of the race or the next stint per se. So you've really got to be careful with what you're picking, what you're doing, and that's something as well as a driver that you're thinking about as you're going along. You're trying to think about strategy as well, but you can't pay too much mind to it, because if you're thinking just that bit too much about what you're going to do in the next few laps or so when you do eventually come into the pits, then that might distract from the action on the track.
Might well do indeed. And, well, as I said, as we approach the halfway mark, a bit of a story starting to turn itself up. It's very wide actually from Samuel Chimondley. Could actually see Maurice Stryker have a bit of a look as they run their way in towards the final complex of Ravazza. Downhill braking, of course, but closing the gap and closing, not quite close enough, but definitely enough to have a bit of a look. Again, a little bit wide through the final complex of Ravazza, losing time to Sesmogi in front. Are we going to see anyone into the pit lane from the top four? Not on this occasion, just in behind Nico Veldman, Oscar Soriso in that fight for fifth. I don't think Maurice Stryker is quite close enough to launch an offensive maneuver, at least on this occasion, but the Dutchman and is really, just hammering the pressure on, as we said, vital importance to do so. And, well, again, you can definitely see his hard work is starting to pay off bit by bit. Cholmondeley is making those little clumsy mistakes, even though it didn't cost him the position. It cost him a little bit of time. It cost him a little bit of confidence, running just a little bit wide through outer. And again, it just makes you second guess yourself. And as soon as you second guess yourself, as soon as you're not decisive, that's where cracks start to, expand and exaggerate themselves. And, well, as soon as you've got cracks exaggerating, it's vulnerability that Maurice Stryker can then capitalize on. As in the background, you can see Oscar Soristo flying in terms of pace on the back of Nico Veldman. P5 is the fight for them, and the pair of them actually bit by bit closing in on this fight. Maybe that's why Stryker isn't being too aggressive. Maybe he's mindful of the two in behind.
Yeah, he probably is, actually. And Soristo, actually, we mentioned him at the beginning. He didn't have the best qualifying, if I'm not mistaken. So he has really been making some progress in this fight toward the front between the pros, and he's been doing incredibly well, as I said he would. And I mean, it seems I've got quite the knack for picking out drivers that can do some work on the track, and Soristo is certainly one of them. And you could say the same about Smoggy as well. He'll be happy to see that Cholmondeley and Stryker are having a little bit of a fight behind them. That's going to give him a bit of a cushion to the drivers just behind him as well, and that's going to really allow him to start maybe focusing on Enligna and that pit stop strategy that he'll be running eventually.
Yeah, still waiting for the vast majority of the field actually to work their way in. Of those that have, we've got Guillaume Hamling, Elias Troyer, Quantrell, and Badari. They're the only four to actually make their way down the pit lane to take their mandatory stop. Of course, it's a strategical dynamic that we're keeping our eye on to, as he's got Vincent actually leaving the pit lane. One of the other Mercedes as well, as the dart to the right-hand side there from Oscar Soriso, trying to capitalise off some of the lap traffic, not quite able to have enough of a look, but enough to put Nico Veldman off his stride and maybe knock his momentum just a little bit. The fight for fifth rages on, very, very close between the two of them. And, well, a flash of lights there from Oscar Soriso. Maybe not too happy with Nico Veldman, maybe just trying to put him off his game just that little bit. Very close still between Cholmondeley and Stryker as well. But, well, I mean, it's just a case of, I think they're close, but not quite close enough. But looking back on the rear end of Nico Veldman, surely that Aston Martin's got to be filling that rearview mirror.
Yeah, he really is a bumper to bumper, more or less, coming through Tosa and up through Piratella. Now he's still incredibly close, is that Aston Martin, and he's just trying to find a way through, and he's putting on the pressure, which I keep banging on about its importance, but it all works up into the big picture of a race itself, and he'll be wanting to make sure that Veldman knows that he's there and knows that the move could come at any time, and he's going to be all over him.
For sure, and that is, of course, the important thing is Nico Veldman cannot let his guard down. It's something we're going to constantly jabber on and on and on about, because it's so important at a circuit like Imola, where you can't really make those conventional overtakes as well. Maurice Stryker ahead of Cholmondeley, able to make the move done in the portion of the circuit where Cholmondeley actually messed up a lap ago. Into the pit lane comes the Honda NSX then of Maurice Stryker, so Smoggy also in from second place, but Dominic Ligner, Samuel Cholmondeley continue on for yet another lap with only 5 minutes left to go in the pit window phase. As Chris Davis, well, the first one to do it, a stop-go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. I mean, Imola, it's a straight, line into the pit stop braking zone, so I guess it is easy to do, and a small mistake, probably only by a couple of kilometers, can cost you quite a bit of time. A stop-go 30 is pretty hefty.
Yeah, it is pretty hefty as well, and I mean, I've got to try and wrap my head around the speed of these cars as well. Again, used to Formula One, so the timings are a little bit off. They're not incredibly far apart, but yeah, stop go 30. That's a hefty penalty right there, and it's a silly mistake to make, but we're all human. We all make these mistakes. These drivers, incredible reaction times, I'm sure, but yeah, it happens.
It does. It's the nature of the beast. Is, well, quite a few drivers now into the pit lane. Of course, Smoggy, Nico Veldman, as we said, Maurice Stryker. We've then got Peters, Zampieri, Gonchabo also in, Vaishnav Lodger, Eric Larson, Martin Blankensteiner also into the pit lane. Trying to keep our eyes actually on the dynamic. We've got three races going on here. The pros with the white number plate, the silvers, sort of the pro-am, the middle class with the silver number plate, and then of course the AMs with the reds. As you can see, it's Elias Troyer that leads the way for the AMs, and as it stands, Dominic Ligler leading the way for the pros. We'll see how the silvers rack up after the pit stop phase. We think it is going to go the way way of Peters, who, if I'm not mistaken, is actually leading the championship after Eric Larsson's promotion. Into the pit lane, though, comes our race leader of Dominic Eligner. I think actually relinquishes the lead to Samuel Chimondley, who's leaving this pit stop phase very late. But, well, if anything can happen with Sir Smoggy to get the undercut on Dominic Eligner, it's got to be a race against time now.
Yeah, it really has got to be a race against time. He's got to try and put those laps in, and you know, those stops as well are going to be important, especially. And yes, Eligner's in, and it's really going to be quite the timing race, and that's another one as well. You know, there's races on the circuit, and there's races with the time itself. It's quite a higher sort of state of racing. There's just so many elements of motorsport that I struggle to find why people find motorsport boring. Really, it's just something else. Is that that's a great exit out of the forget Ferrari anti-outer now, and they're going to go side by side all the way down towards the Ravazza here. I don't think this is a battle for like pro thing, but it's incredibly risky going through the Ravazza there, but plenty of space given as they go wheel to wheel, and a good move from the Lamborghini there.
It is indeed. That is Guillaume Hamling versus Nico Veldman in their pursuit. Of course, both of them came into the pit lane not too long ago, but can Nico Veldman maybe strike back on their run towards the Tamburello chicane? Defensive goes Guillaume Hamling, the driver from Luxembourg, pulling out to the right-hand side goes Nico Veldman, the Flying Dutchman, trying to go the long way around. They've got the Bentley of Chris Davis just in front, but soaring his way to the outside of the Tamburello. They touch, and the Audi sent offline just a little bit as Guillaume Hamling able to solidify that at the moment P8 position. But well, Nico Veldman, it was definitely bold, it was definitely brave, but it didn't quite work to the outside of the Tamburello chicane. A great little battle actually materializing between these two, as well, we said Imola's a circuit that doesn't lend itself quite well to conventional overtake, so you've got to try something different, and that's exactly what Nico Veldman did.
Yeah, he did. Apologies for mixing them up. Still getting used to the timing tower here, but yeah, a great bit of skirmish between these guys. Really racing each other hard, and Chimondley and Southfield finally into the pit lane as well. I think Chef, in terms of the Pro-Ams, is the only driver left to come into the pits now, and leaving it late.
Yeah, very, very late, as that is the Bentley, I do believe, of Chris Davis, just pulling off to the outer extremities of the circuit to allow them through into the pit lane. Then comes our final three. Here's a fight for what is second place as it stands, probably the race lead, I imagine, in the silver class between Luca Ryer and Mark Peters. At the moment, they've got the Porsche of Vaislav Volodya just in behind, of course, for the pros and inter-class battle, but Mark Peters trying to put some pressure on, and we'll see what happens when Jeff finishes their pit lane sequence. Well, I'm going to imagine these two are going to come out comfortably in front, but it's good to see that the fight for the silvers only separated by half a second between the BMW and the Mercedes. Of course, Luca Ryer, the Italian driver, looking to impress on home soil, and well, surely, even in the virtual world, you've got a bit of a boost being at your home circuit.
Yeah, you certainly do, and I'm just looking at the top of the toward the top of the timing fields. Am I mistaken? No, Smoggy, has he lost time? It's quite difficult to tell with the way that it updates, but he was down in 5th just a second ago. Now that things have finally updated, but I think he might have lost the place to Striker.
Potentially so. I mean, he's down to P3 as Ryer's under a bit of pressure. You can see Chef still in the pit lane, so I would imagine that these two will take the lead, as Vaislav Volodya still trying to find a way through the Estonian to the outside. Oh my word, that is very, very sketchy. But again, interclass, you don't really want to be taking these risks, and you are very right in saying Maurice Stryker now ahead of Sir Smoggy to the extent of 1.1 seconds. So Maurice Stryker not only got the move, and oh my word, he's thrown it all away, a drive-through, presumably for track limits incursions. Thrown all of that hard work away, able to get ahead of Samuel Chimondley towards the latter stages of stint 1, able to get ahead of Sir Smoggy to the early stages of stint 2, only 2 seconds off the race leader, but a drive-through, that's got to be gut-wrenching for Maurice Stryker.
Certainly so, and there's that commentator's coincidence coming full circle from the beginning of the session here, making its way in, and he'll be annoyed with that. He'll be kicking himself after the session, and as he comes into the pit lane as well. So Smoggy will be happy to get rid of that car and get himself back into P2, where he's been sat for the majority of this race, and Eligner as well. He's just been in a class of his own today.
He has. I mean, I look back to Spa of last season. Of course, I know you weren't here, but season number 2 rounded off, and Dominic Eligner really you know, he joined us quite late on in Season 2, and while he's looking to impress in Season 3, he really strung up a good set of results. I mean, a P9, a P2, and a P1, I think, were his results in the final stages. His Slav making a move on Mark Peters. Of course, nothing really major happening as it's an inter-class fight, but still Václav Volodya still struggling to find a way through. But Dominic Ligner, very, very fast driver, very, very impressive, very, very consistent, and always towards the top of the timing sheets as Slav finally finds a way through to the inside of the Tambrella chicane, and well, not fairly comfortably way through, but finally did do so as we enter the final 10 minutes. But yeah, Ligner setting the timing sheets ablaze and looking to kickstart his season, I think. I mean, to get a win, if he can hang on for the final quarter of this race, would really boost his confidence going into sort of the final half of this season, as James Wright versus Badari, again, an inter-class fight, but well, they're still giving it their all and still defensive, actually. The McLaren trying to discourage Wright.
Yeah, it's good to see a McLaren out there as well. I was just looking through the field. There's a lot of common choices of car, but I think that's the only McLaren out on the circuit. But trying to make his way through, it's an inter-series or championship, I don't know, however you want to call it, battle. But yeah, it's still some action on the circuit as well. And I think Stryker has made his way back out onto the track. He's down in P14 now. And I think that puts him right at the back of the
pros.
The pros, that's the one. As Wright has found a way past the McLaren coming through to Tosa. I really tripped up my words there.
Easily done. Easily done. We've all been there. We're all human. Honestly, it's the worst thing when it comes to commentary is you forget that one word. Very simple. I remember one time I was commentating on a race at Monza. IndyCar's at Monza. Even if I'm allowed to say IndyCars, I mean I am, because it's ACC, so I can get away with it. I'm not going to get told off. But I remember I was trying to think of driving style, and I was stuck in it for so long, and I was like, yeah, you can sort of tune the cars to your driving, and then I was like, I can't think of the word, and then the other guy I was commentating with, DJ Clark, was like, style, because he's American, style, and I was like, oh yeah, of course, style, of course, I'm just an idiot. So yeah, no, we've all been there. It's easily done. But anyway, back to the racing action. Final 8 minutes and 48 seconds of this race. Guillaume Houweling versus Nico Veldman for the fight for 6th. It's spreading out just a little bit towards the front 5, but at least a good fight here for 6th starting to materialise. And of course, you are watching the TSRC PC GT3 Series here for season number 3, round 3 at Imola. You're watching live on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. Myself, Zach Sweeney, Kelsey Gill alongside me, making his debut, of course, in the big world of scary PC sim racing commentary. But if you are enjoying, make sure to like, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications. Do not miss a thing when it comes to sim racing. Everything, almost 2-3 streams a night, all throughout the week, whatever time zone you are, UK, US, wherever. There is something to cater to your needs. Whether you're experienced, new to sim racing, you will find a home here on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. And well, I hope you do enjoy the final 8 minutes of coverage here for the Sim Racing Collective, as well, starting to kick off a little bit in this fight for 4th in the silver class. Rob Control for Mercedes versus the home hero, Zampiri, there in P4 in the silvers. And well, it's actually very, very close, because you've got the BMW just in behind as well. I think that is Scott Vincent, a lap down actually. So it is only a 2-car fight, but still very, very close. And for P4, it's not exactly the worst position to be fighting over in the final stages.
No, it's really not, and this is quite the intense battle as well between these guys, and they'll certainly give it everything they've got in this last 7 minutes and 20 seconds of this race, and yeah, making their way through. And that Honda just behind Kanzabo, I hope I got the name right, but trying to sort of sit in the tail in the slipstream and try and get as close as he can. Zampieri coming under some pressure now as the Mercedes takes a look to the inside. Oh, and there's contact. Oh, right on the bumper, and that's going to invite the Honda straight past the both of them. Car number 77 won't be too happy with himself for doing that, braking late, or perhaps just getting too close in that corner. And wow, some big developments in this fight.
Yeah, Zampieri is not going to be too happy, but no harm, no foul. They still continue as they were. 4 and 5 in the AM class. Maurice Stryker tries to make some progress forward. Still, you can see the second to last man of Volodya in the Porsche, the number 7 Porsche, just a couple of cars in front of him. So he's trying to make it at least not last for Maurice Stryker, in a race that, well, could have been. It's always a case of shoulda, coulda, woulda, but when it comes to racing, it's indiscriminate. The you can't play the victim card at all. You really do just have to suck it up and get on with it. Sometimes Lady Luck shines your way, other times it does not. But at least there's some positives to take from Maurice Stryker. It's at least a bittersweet race as opposed to just a bitter one.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you finish the race. You try and finish all the way. You may have a big mistake or whichever, but it's not always the worst thing in the world. And I mean, at the end of the day as well, it's a video game. It's not going to matter too much in the grand scheme of things. And we race for fun as well for a lot of the time here. But it looks like Velogia's making a move to get past. I think that's the Pro-Am's leader at the moment as they head down towards Tamburello, but no way through for the Porsche at the moment. He'll want to try and make that again, but he won't want to risk it too much.
He won't, and again, it's not really worth it. Same too for Raya, in all fairness. I mean, Velogia is second last, I should say, in the pro field, and actually getting a little bit wide through Villeneuve is setting back just a little bit. But for Luca Raya, it's a case of not really fighting the Porsche too much because of the risk you pose of allowing Mark Peters back into the limelight. A little bit wide out of Toaster, actually, for the Mercedes. But yeah, for Luca Raya, it's don't fight Velogia. It's not worth it. It's not going to gain or lose you any points by finishing in front of the Porsche. If he goes for a move, let it, and then try and get as far away as possible. Keep that Mercedes at an arm's length away, as Maurice Stryker still trying to find a way through on Mark Peters. But again, it's that problem of having three different classes all on track. And well, when you've got the top end of the silvers being able to hold their own with some of the pros, it oftentimes ends up in awkward little shenanigans like this, where sometimes the pros, even though they're quicker, can't actually find a way through because they find themselves on the back of some pretty intense battles.
Yeah, they do, and that's another issue that poses as well. I suppose if you drop back far enough among the pros, you do get caught up in these fights between the other classes among the drivers on the grid. There's 30 cars, if I'm not mistaken, on the grid or so. Or perhaps I am mistaken. I don't know exactly, but yeah, it's a detriment, and if you're caught in amongst it, you can really hamper your race.
Yeah, you really do have to. I think that's a case of where experience really comes to the limelight. The more experienced drivers will know when and when not to get involved. They'll say, no, it's not for me, not worth it, I'll back out. Whereas the maybe less experienced, the new ones, maybe even one of the quickest on the field, but they've not really indulged themselves in a race and competitive environment too much. They'll be the ones to say, oh, sod it, I'm going to send it. Why not? What's wrong with that? And they'll soon learn, sort of trial by fire and learning what works and what doesn't work, so that, hey, no, that's not going to cut it. You can't do that. And then they'll refine it and get used to sort of multi-class racing. Fortunately, the multi-class racing is only between one sort of class of or discipline of racing. Oftentimes, multi-class relies on maybe prototypes and GTs, like we see in IMSA and the WEC, etc. But in this case, it's only the GT, so maybe that's a burden and a blessing in its own right. That's an argument to be discussed on another day, because we've got a fight here for fifth. Jack Southfield holding off Guillaume Hamling for the final place inside the top five as we enter into what I make to maybe be, is this the penultimate lap or is it the third to last lap? Either way, we can see Guillaume Hamling having a bit of a look in that Lamborghini to the right-hand side. It'll be the outside line of Tamburello. Jack Southfield trying his best to hang on. Late on the brakes, of course, and well able to hang on at least for now, but Guillaume Hamling is certainly eyeing up that move for fifth.
Yeah, he certainly is. And Jack was putting the car just in the right place as well. He got the car in the way and was able to get back onto the racing line in the second part of the corner. But that Lamborghini has got a great exit through the Villeneuve chicane. He's going to try around the outside through Toaster. They go incredibly close. We can't see what's going on at the moment. Bit of contact perhaps as well. That could invite Veldman into the fray as well. They're all going to be incredibly close now as they run up towards Piratella at the moment. Southfield still holding on from the two cars behind him. This is a great fight as we enter the dying stages of this race.
It really is, and while time is not on their side, Jack Southfield, this is going to be the longest lap and a half of his life. For Guillaume Hamling and Nico Veldman, well, they're going to want it to stretch as long as possible. Each corner that goes by is an opportunity out of the question. Defensive into the Variante out to Nico Veldman, having a look to the outside. Here comes Guillaume Hamling, looking to the outside, putting Jack Southfield under a bit of pressure, trying to get the up and under, potentially foot to the floor and hope. Not the best of runs from the Jack Southfield, the 64 Porsche, and now Guillaume Hamling could have a bit of a look maybe to the outside of Ravazza coming on now to the final lap of this race. Jack Southfield once again holds firm, tries to get ducking underneath, and though goes the Lamborghini side by side into the final corner, and Jack Southfield beached on the outside. A little bit too brave on the brakes for his own good, and well, Nico Velbin wants a slice of this pie.
Yeah, he does, and he's going to go draw alongside the Porsche now, and he's going to get into the slipstream of the Lamborghini as well. This could be free ride as we head down in towards the Tamburello now, but Jack Southfield's going to have to slot in behind, and he's lost 2 places in the matter of 2 corners and half a straight. And now Veldman is going to go on the attack as well. Has a little look around the outside, but defensive goes the Lamborghini, keeping that car behind. And we've only got about 40 seconds or so left of this race, and it's all kicking off.
Well, honestly, the checker flag will be waved on this lap. Dominic Ligner will take what is surely going to be a fairly dominant affair in this race, as he's led from light to flag. But what remains an unknown is this fight for 5th. Is Guillaume Hamlin going to be able to hold off Nico Velbin? Well, that remains to be seen. But with only half a lap left to go, I guess we can only sing the praises of Dominic Ligner.
Yeah, you know, he's kept it consistent. He's been at the front. He did absolutely everything right today, I feel. He got out into the lead, yeah, from the very early stages of the race, and that was it. He was gone. He was just controlling the pace, keeping it consistent, and he was just on a Sunday drive, really, I suppose, for himself. He really had no one to challenge him, and Smokey had a little bit of problems, but great race from Ligner.
Absolutely. From lights to flag, Dominic Ligner starts his season at round number 3 here in Imola. He takes victory. He sees the checkered first and crosses it first. So Smokey in second, but Dominic Ligner with the fast lap. Pole led every lap that he could and takes victory here for the TSRC round 3 of season 3 here in Imola. So Smokey, Oscar Soriso, your podium with Samuel Schmolly just in behind. But what about this fight here? Run to the line between Nico Velbin and Jack Southfield. It is going to go the way of the Flying Dutchman ahead of Jack Southfield. And well, what a display of racing action that we saw. Brilliant stuff from all involved. Here comes Martin Blankenstein, the Danish driver, across the line in his, again, very purple and black Mercedes. Elias Troyer there for the lead of the AMS. We'll see him cross the line as well. Ahead, actually, of the silver leader of Luca Riot. Elias Troyer on home soil takes victory here in Imola. Brilliant stuff there as we see another home hero. 2 home victors across 2 classes. Luca Riot for Nordes Racing Team in his BMW sees the checkered flag first here in Imola and takes victory for the silvers. Brilliant stuff there on, well, again, that home hero sort of vibe, I guess, of the classes were won by Italians here in Italy. That's got to say something about the Italians and their strength.
Yeah, it really does. One thought I had when I was watching to prepare for to join you tonight, Zach, was the Italians really making a statement with their liveries, and they've made a statement here as well in both their appropriate classes, I suppose. And yeah, they've come out on top, and it's always special to win your home race as well. There's just something about it.
There is indeed. It's again something special. Like it'd be us like winning Silverstone or something along those lines. You just it feels nice to do it and get across the line in style. And what we're going to run you through the final race order of tonight. Dominic Ligner takes victory from pole to flag after 23 laps of racing action. So Smokey and Oscar Soristo join him on the podium with Samuel Schmodley and Guillaume Hamlin, your top 5. Nico Velbin in 6th with Jack Southfield there just in behind in P7. Very, very close between the 3 of them. Martin Blankensteiner there in P8. Eric Larson on debut for the pros, P9. Elias Troyer, well, in my eyes, star of the day. Winner of the AMS and ahead of not only 2 pros, but also the race leader in the silvers. Václav Lodger just in behind him there. Luca Raya comes home to win the silvers in P12 with Maurice Stryker in P13 after a very poor showing, it must be said. Unlucky 13 for the Dutchman. Mark Peters P2 in the silvers with Chef just in behind there, rounding off the top 15 and the podium. Zampieri on home soil managing to conjure up a P4 with Contrell, Conchabo, Massey there P2 for the AMS. James Wright just in behind, Badari rounds off the podium for the AMS with Williams just in behind him. And looking to the rest of the field, there comes Steenberg and Chris Davis. Scott Vincent, unfortunately, it was false promise maybe, but looking to improve as the season progresses for him. And well, then comes Rubini, Bays, Kingston Lee to round off the 28 car field that we have. And well, before we wrap up things, Kelsey, I guess that's a very warm welcome to sim racing, I suppose.
Yeah, an incredibly warm welcome. We've had so much awesome action as well. And just to note, the rain never turned up. It was something that was looming in the back of everybody's mind, but it never showed up. And I'm sure there'll be some drivers out there who'd be incredibly happy about that. But yes, it's been an awesome debut. Watching the 2 races that I have of this series already, I think I knew that I was in for something special. But being here in person to commentate on all the live action alongside you, Zach, has been great. And I'm glad to be here.
Roll on next week then, as unfortunately that does wrap up all of our action here for the Sim Racing Collective, the PC GT3 Series here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. You join myself, Zach Sweeney, and Kelsey Gill in the commentary booth for what was the halfway point of a 6-round season. In a week's time, we take to Silverstone, what is often tipped to be the home of British motorsport, a very prestigious circuit, a very fast, very flowing, very good circuit when it comes to racing. It will be myself, Zach Sweeney, in the commentary with Kelsey Gill will be alongside me. We look forward to seeing you there. But in the meantime, take care, enjoy your week, and a very warm goodbye.